Hey, greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott, and this is my weekend market update for the week ending in Sunday, May 11th, 2025. If you hear funny noises, no, it's not me breathing as usual. I'm actually sitting at a dock down in Fort Lauderdale. I guess the women in my family decided Mother's Day should be girls' trip to Disney World, so I took the boat out and parked it down here and sitting out here on a lovely night doing my video. Um, I titled this week, Does Consolidation Under Resistance Favor the Bulls or the Bears? I think it's a legitimate question because that's what we're doing. Um, if you like these videos, hit subscribe, hit the alarm. If you want to contact me, you can leave something in the remarks section or htsidoc@gmail.com or marketmripro@gmail.com, whichever one you remember. I answer both. And even better, join my Google group called Top Down Trader. Put this in screen mode and let's get rolling. As always, these are for educational purposes only. Any recommendations are in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate the tools of top-down analysis and how I apply them. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky and should always consult with your financial advisor before making trades. And I've got tools in multiple platforms, but I'm an independent trader. So the funny thing is, the name of my boat is stocksanddocs.com. I'm wearing my Stocks and Docs t-shirt, and all my friends who come on my boat, they get their own Stocks and Docs t-shirt. But if you're looking for the Stocks and Docs video, look for it on Monday morning. This will be in my Market MRI Pro platform, and I'll do my Stocks and Docs one and wealth charts sometime tomorrow. I am so stoked, so excited for this Orange County meeting because I have got us a star-studded list of speakers. June 6th through 8th at the Residence Inn and Suites in Tustin, Orange County. For more information, contact Greg Mills at GAM72054 at AOL.com. It is $400 for 3 days of market-leading education. Yes, that's cheap. That'll defray the cost of the room. It's a no-frills meeting. Um, we don't even pay the speakers anything, but we keep going every year because it's a great meeting for networking and seeing friends. Who is coming? John Persons of personsplanet.com. This is a real trader. He manages money, got some great indicators. Authors used to run a futures brokerage. This guy is great. Dan Fitzpatrick, I only subscribed to him for probably 15 years, had dinner with him at a Minervini meeting. I like how he thinks. I like how he talks, and very similar style to how I trade without using a lot of indicators. I can now confirm Matt Caruso of CarusoInsights.com, one of these guys that wins and leads from the investment championships, U.S. investing championships. Just a great trader. I subscribe to his service. So, if we just stop there, I mean, can you beat that? Chris White from EdgeRater will show us what's new in EdgeRater. He trades, but he also builds a great software platform. I'll be there, and Dev Keshav will be in the room as well. So the guys on the left will be WebExing in, or whatever we call it this modern day, Zooming, I guess. We have a great time. I look forward to being there. So I think the room is full, but there's always a couple people in the room that the last minute will say, hey, I'm going to do it on the internet. So there's probably a couple spots we can get you in. Love to have you. If not, come do it on the internet. You'll get my PowerPoints and you'll get videos of all the presentations. And typically we do a meeting afterwards, Zooming, just to answer any questions. So it's not too late, but it's getting close. I mentioned my Top Down Trader Google group. That's where I post videos when I don't put them on YouTube, which is more frequent than people know. Dialogue every once in a while. Sometimes other people are speaking up, but it's where I put my thoughts, and it's the best way to interact with me. Just go to Google Groups, sign in, put down your name, or put down Top Down Trader, and you'll be in business. Now, why do I do that? Well, because I was emailing friends and family the same thing, and it kept coming back as spam. And when your own family is coming back as spam, it's not, well, it could be my family hates me, but I don't think so. I think it just tells you that the system to doing email lists just doesn't work anymore. Discord, I've tried it in the past. You know, when I stop working full time and get rid of a job that has 3,500 employees, maybe I'll have time to run a Discord group, but not, I don't have time. That's why I'm doing it through Google Groups. Is there a recession in our near future? I don't think so. I think that, you know, we got some big information this week of CPI and PPI and some import numbers. I think no one knows what to expect with the tariffs, except maybe the tariffs won't be as bad. You know, I'm doing this on Saturday night late. Bessert is meeting, I think that's his name, with his Chinese counterparts. Apparently, they met 10 hours on Saturday about trade. They're going to meet again Sunday. We need them, they need us. Imagine what happens if they come out with a positive statement. Even if Trump brings the rates down to 80% or 65%, I think that could spike the markets to go higher. Um, you know, so far England alone spiked the market a bit, and I don't think that mattered. They're already probably our best partner, but apparently there's a number of others getting ready to announce. So who knows what's going to happen with tariffs? My guess is that the news flow will continue to be positive. You know, we did invert and go below zero on both the 10 minus 3 months, the 10 2 year, and we've come back above. And typically, these gray bars say that every time you drop below and come back, you get a recession. Okay. So I think it'd be crazy to say we don't have a recession because they happen, but I don't think one is imminent. That could change. Credit tightness, looking at the B of A US high yield index option adjusted spread. If I just looked at the last couple of bars, it's come down. Typically, if a recession's coming, money gets tight, it goes up. Now, the one thing that's bothersome is we did spike down here on the Philadelphia Fed Diffusion Index. Anything, you know, recessions start when we get minus 20. We got minus 20, but you don't always get a recession. So I think, yes, we'll get one someday. I just don't think it's imminent. Know your news and earnings. Lots of Fed heads, including Powell speaking on Thursday morning at 8:40. We got CPIs, we got PPIs, we got jobless claims, and we got import prices and consumer sentiment for May. I think that's the first reading. So there's a lot of things that can move the market coming. And oh yeah, it's still earnings lollapalooza. I mean, some of the big cap tech are done, but you have some names there that you probably recognize, and maybe even some that you own. I do have a pretty big position in C, and I am probably going to do something with that position that's really deep in the money prior to earnings. Whether that means I sell calls against it, um, take profits, I'll have to decide. And the reason for that is the lower right-hand corner. It's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. All right, on to the charts. Again, don't forget my Google group, Top Down Trader. Love to have you. And who knows, someday soon, maybe we'll have a meeting down here so we can all go out on my boat. You can get your stocks and dock shirts as well. All right, this is my Market MRI Pro tool. Somebody asked on YouTube, what tool is this? Well, imagine if you've been doing this for a long time and you're used to using a lot of different tools, and some really nice guy who follows you says, hey, I can build you an app. We can make your life easier. And so we basically build an app that will continue to expand. We'll be adding additional folks to it um, with one of the speakers perhaps next. Um, and it made my life easy because pretty much everything I do is done in one tool. So let's just look at the market on Friday. You could see Bitcoin had a great session, up 1.8%. Qs were down just a bit. Spiders were down 0.15, Russell down 0.18, dollar down 0.29, and diamonds down 0.35. So really, you could say pretty much a flat day. And if I just jump into TradeStation, I had problems with earlier, but let's see if I can get into my markets daily. And let's just put make sure that's everything got what I want, and let's just drop the time frame from daily down to 15 minutes. And you could see that markets kind of dropped at the beginning and they just went sideways the rest of the session. Dropped at the open and went sideways. And these are the cash markets. So not much happened on Friday, and you could see not much of a change there. The volatility was down 0.81 as well. We look over 5 days out of curiosity. Boy, Bitcoin up 6%, dollar up 0.47. The Russell, which has been leading of late, was up a teeny bit. The indices were down just a bit, and the VIX was down 1.74 on the week. If we look at Friday's new high, new lows, NYSE, new highs minus new lows, positive of all time frames. NASDAQ still negative. So the NASDAQ positive on the very short term, 1 and 3 months, but on the 12-month is negative. Over here is like my favorite tool, S&P 1500, NASDAQ, and NYSE. The top is the number of sectors or percentage of sectors were up 73% on the S&P 1500, down from the prior day, 73 on the NASDAQ, and 73 on the NYSE. That's pretty balanced, all of which a little bit weaker than the previous day. Industry groups up 73, 80, and 73. So the majority of industry groups were up. And then this one's really cool. 76% of the S&P 1500 were up. Is that about 1050? 68% of the NASDAQ and 67% of the NYSE. So despite the fact the indexes were a little bit negative, you had more stocks up than down. If we go over and see what's working, is it time for energy? Energy was up 0.99, real estate 0.6, discretionary 0.45. The losers were healthcare -1, staples -0.58, communications -0.53, and tech 0.12 down. So a very mixed picture. Can't even say that that was defensives underperformed. And if we look at a 5-day performance on the major ETFs, you could see industrials, utilities, energy at the top, healthcare, staples, real estate on the bottom. So over the longer period of time, it does seem like consumer defensives, staples, real estate, utilities, except for up here, utilities were not performing like the rest, but the other defensive stocks have rotated out. And if we look at a 1-day change at what theme was working this week, at least on Monday or on Friday, silver, solar, gold, clean tech, uranium, exploration, autonomous vehicles, renewable energy, metals, minings, internet, and copper. It's interesting. Energy has been showing some positive things of late, but boy, it has been something that has been buried. I go into my timing model. This is the weekly model. And if we look down here, we continue to see that on the weekly model, each of these ETFs, the spider in the upper left, Qs in the upper right, diamonds in the lower right, and Russell in the lower left remain in a sell signal. If we go to the daily, we can see they all remain in a buy signal, and the buy sell indicator is this green here. So what do I see there? I see a retracement in a downtrend, a retracement in a downtrend. That is a bearish pattern. However, if you think about after any downtrend, the first thing that's going to change is the daily. And then if it takes out prior highs or resistance, eventually the weekly will change. So is this a retracement and a downtrend that will reverse and go lower? Or will we break out to higher highs and go into a new uptrend? I don't know that. Nobody knows that. All we can do is guess. We'll look some deeper as we go forward. In fact, if you look at the US index ETFs, they are just clunking around underneath this 200. And it's kind of easy for me to say that until certainly the spider and the Qs make up their mind. If they go above the 200 and it holds, I figure we go on to new highs. If it drops below the 50 and that 17, which are right below, we're probably going to do a retest. Simple as that. And maybe if it's just going sideways and consolidating, I take some profits, don't put a whole lot more money in the market, and get ready to see which way it breaks. And I think that's what I've been doing. And I still have some longs. Anything Bitcoin related, especially Robinhood, MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy, the Maras and the Riots, have all performed well as Bitcoin has been the leader right now. But here's a market that's consolidating. Now, consolidating can be healthy. Maybe it burns off some of the big move it had off the bottom, and then it goes higher to higher highs. Certainly is possible. But I think you got to be careful and recognize that how many days and how many times has it failed at 200, looking at that Q before we think it's just not going to happen here. If I look at the commodity down here, you can see the VIX is drifting down, still above where it was before, and it was down on um, Friday 4.5%, and the dollar had an inside bar. It was down 0.29. Now, if I flip this to a weekly, come on, slow internet on the boat, so should switch to a weekly. Here you go. Up. Notice how kind of in a trading range here, but here's the 50 weekly bar also being resistant. So it'll be interesting to see where we end up. But right now, consolidation, commodities. The dollar's been weak. So if we look here, we can see that, get to the commodities. Gold consolidating at a high. Silver's off the highs, but actually was up on Friday 1.15, while gold was down a bit. Actually, gold was up 0.75 because that was the prior close. You could see oil's trying to fight its way back after failing at the 17. Natural gas is running from the 200 now into the 50. And you could see here the 10-year gapped up, finished mostly flat up 0.11. And the 30-year was down 0.15. So mixed on the yields. Now, I like to look at my buckets, which give me a sense of overbought, oversold. And I look to see if there's a lot of stocks above. Well, 13% of the Russell 2000 are above the Bollinger Bands. That's interesting. When it gets to 25 or 30, it means something. It doesn't mean something there. 9% of the NASDAQ, 8% of the NYSE, and 9% of the S&P 1500. Clearly a right shift. The majority of stocks are above the midline, the Bollinger Bands, which is a much stronger pattern in the market, but not overly so. My market breadth tool does not give me any big signals except look at the NYSE. Just like those ETFs failed at that 200-day, here's the NASDAQ giving a doji underneath the 200. You could see here volume was pretty good on Friday. Reversion to the mean with the 1750 and the 20, 50, and 200 stocks above, both coming up, all coming off the bottoms. The 20 in green, easing a little bit after a big thrust. And if we go down here, new high, new lows, positive on the NYSE as we saw, still negative on the NASDAQ at 52 weeks. AD lines positive as well as up down volume and no new signals. Now, so my take on the market is we're in a retracement in an uptrend and something that may end well with a breakout, but I still think there's risk to the downside. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm cautious. Going to take some profits on SE for sure. Still mostly long, and I'll look to see, do we break above the 200 or back down below the 50, and that'll drive my direction. Now, I do my stock analysis under the JAS layout tool, and the JAS layout tool has a number of things. Let's take a look at hot list, let's see, B. Yeah, some of the popular stocks, and see if anything looks good on some of the big names. Amazon. Amazon's been fighting its way back from down here when it had a giant reversal, a retest. Got to get above that 200, but it's now above the 50. I think Amazon looks interesting here. I'd be looking for a breakout above that 200 and a hold. APP had big move on earnings again with a bit of a shooting star and a down day on Friday. Maybe it pulls back and gives you a chance to buy it on the dip after somewhat of a flag. Google still struggling under the 50 and the 17. Meta has just been amazing. Like Amazon, it broke back out, but it actually took out the 50 and the 200. This one looks interesting here. Yes, it's way off the highs, but I think this thing goes higher. Microsoft, even better. This one's threatening old highs. Let's see on the weekly, are those really old highs? Probably not. Uh, it's not that far away from old highs. And you can start doing, if you like me, if you like trend lines. I mean, there's probably a bunch of trend lines in here you could do. And maybe Microsoft's getting ready for a breakout. I think Microsoft looks good here. Netflix, this has been the big leader. Didn't do much on Friday, was down a bit. You know what? We add some, I don't have indicators on this. Never mind. Wonder why. Supposed to. Microsoft had an inside bar and was down some on, excuse me, Netflix was down 0.368% on an inside bar on Friday. Big run, just off all-time highs. NVIDIA earnings are coming out. When are they due? They are due on May 28th. Their estimates are 88 cents versus 61. So that's about a 40%, 50% growth, 40% growth. The revenue 4.3 versus 2.6. So that's a pretty big growth there. So, but growth is definitely slowing down. We'll see how they do. Has NVIDIA seen its all-time highs? I don't know. I still have a position, but still most of it's protected by some puts. I think this will be an interesting earnings period for NVIDIA, and the date is May 28th, so got a couple more weeks. And then Tesla, maybe this is the best one of the bunch. Come on, Tesla, come back, come back. Why do I think it might be the best of the bunch? Let me get back into daily. Because it's about to break out here. And let's look at NVIDIA daily. That was the weekly chart, my bad. Let's go quickly. Microsoft daily looks good. This is the Netflix consolidating at the highs. NVIDIA doesn't look so great. I mean, it's got to get above that 200. Earnings not the end of the month. And as I said, Tesla, I really like this a lot. Now, a lot of times you'll see this pattern in a cheap stock that doesn't have anything underneath. I think this one looks great. Took out the 200. It had breakout momentum, relative strength, and OBV. And that might be one of my favorite stocks going into this coming week. And let's just verify earnings are out. They came out 422, not for 3 months. So that's Tesla. And I think the market likes the fact that Elon will be doing less doging and more Teslaing. All right, so I'm a top-down guy. So these are the sectors. These are the industry groups. Let's just go by percent move. And the leaders on Friday were energy, interestingly by percent, real estate, and basic materials. Now let's go over here and rank by percentage. These are just the industry groups of the top 3. Let's just take the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That gives me 165 stocks. I could look at that, but let's go and filter it a little bit. And let's require stocks to be at least $5 and 500,000 shares. Hit OK. And we got 102. And let's rank them by 2-day momentum. LEU, it says in HGSI that this is a waste management. I don't know if this has got to do with radioactive waste, but we looked at this one maybe a week ago, around in here. Nice breakout. Look at what we had on Thursday. A gap, volume, breakout momentum from a squeeze, relative strength, pop in OBV. LEU looks very interesting. Let's see when it has earnings. Earnings are not out until August, so they're already out. Let's just look at this. Look at the growth on earnings and revenue. A big surprise. Hey, I like it. No dividend. LEU looks interesting. So there you go. We got LEU. What was when we got Tesla for sure as 2 things that I like. All right. Let's just keep going down the list. First Solar. You know, I don't get it. Typically, there's a relationship, and the earnings are not to July, a relationship between solar and oil. When oil's cheap, solar doesn't do well. But you can look at a whole bunch of these. In fact, the next 3 are all solar stocks with a similar pattern. They've beaten up, and now we're starting to see the daily bongo turn blue. Volume has come up. I got breakout momentum from a squeeze. Relative strength has crossed up, as you could see. You can't see it on this one. Never mind. And OBV is positive. So first solar looks good. End phase, another similar pattern. Something is going on, and then solar edge. And I might like this one as much as any of them. It's a little bit cheaper stock. And look at all these blue dots that came in off the squeeze. Look at the relative strength. Look at the OBV. Now, you'll notice that it says it's extended. I have a rule. If I'm touching the 200-day moving average within the last bar or two, I don't count as extended. So I think that solar edge looks kind of interesting right here. So something with solar. Then keeping up on the energy story, YPF. I think this is an Argentinian oil. Got a pattern like Tesla, big run up, pull back. Earnings are in August. Okay. Had lousy year over year in May. That didn't help. But isn't this interesting? Despite that, we're about to take out the 50. Great volume, breakout momentum, relative strength, and OBV have both turned positive. Doesn't pay a dividend. I think YPF looks interesting. And here is a silver plate, wheat and precious metals. Big run up, going sideways. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably not chase here. I would do this, maybe put a line and say, when you take out that line, talk to me, because right now it looks like it's putting in a flag. Neighbors is an oil services company, NBR. I think it's Neighbors. And, it's hard for me to get excited by that pattern. Um, Boy, this group, and is it cheap enough? I don't know. And I don't know if that's a reason to buy something. SOC. This is a Sable. I don't even know what these guys do. Let's look at them. See if there's any news. Sable Offshore. I don't think the second one is the right company because it looks like the healthcare. Then it's cyber. No. Well, I don't know what Stable Offshore Corp sounds to me like an energy company, especially since it's based in Houston. Independent oil and gas company. Okay. All right. Oil and gas. And again, oil and gas have been horrible and beaten up, but they showed up all over my list this week. And look at this one, took out the 50 and the 200. Volume and momentum, relative strength and OBV look good. I'm thinking about putting a little bit of money to work in energy. I have to just decide where. Another thing that's still shining is gold. Here's Ashanti. Um, and breaking out here. Fang is an oil producer. And again, this is hard to get excited by. But I did see some that I liked. EQT, great earnings per share growth. Doesn't look like the rest, does it? Here's one that I think you could say it's broken out already. I think it broke out on Friday. EQT, I think that one looks interesting. And you're noticing how many stocks I think look interesting. Um, April 22nd, 43% growth on earnings, big surprise, revenue up 85%, pays a 2.71% dividend. I think this one looks interesting. Do your research, but I'm finding a lot of stocks today that look attractive. It hasn't been that way for a long time. I'm just looking through the rest of these. Range Resources, and maybe it's a natural gas story. Again, it's not down at the low. It just broke out of the 50. That's one that I'll be watching as well. A lot of gold, silver, nothing else here stands out as something that I have to show you. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is to let's kill the sector piece. And now I got a lot more industry groups. And let's just look at, all right, what else? Packaged foods. All right, let's kill these. Let's look at the four here that were not in the list. 5. And let's just see what we got. Now, there's been a lot of education stocks that made it to the top of late. Um, I've just been burned on these in the past, especially the Chinese ones. And I have this problem that once I've been burned, I'm not really good at getting back into them. But look at this breakout of ATGE. Now that one's extended. I probably would not be chasing it. ETH, is that Ethereum? Yeah, Grayscale Ethereum. Look, Bitcoin is doing well. Maybe it pulls the rest. UTI, another education. It's hard to argue with the beautiful charts. Just for me, I've been burned on them before. Restaurant Coffee, Collegium Pharmaceuticals. I'm just looking to see if anything looks good. Look at this. Of course, it's another educational company, Lincoln Educational Services. Sun Optica, I think they make chips. Hazy. Yeah, nothing too exciting here. All right. Another thing that I like to do is let's turn all these industries off, is go into the impulse indicator. And the impulse indicator list, basically, not indicator, is a list of the tradable stocks that I look at. It's got 1,836 in it right now. If I remove the filters I put in there, let me do that, bring it up to 34, 3,500, 34, 33, down this week a little bit. And so let's just look for my favorite signals. Price, volume. Let's look at the 2-day momentum up signal. Whoa. See if any of these look viable. BKV Corporation. It's an IPO. I don't know anything about it whatsoever. Makes money. Next earnings aren't until August. Had earnings on the 9th on Friday with nice breakout. Fox Factory Holdings, aren't they Chinese and involved with Apple? Right now, there must have been some positive news. LSCA, Homes, Mag Silver. Excuse me, Mara, one of those Bitcoin stocks, Bitcoin miners, anything Bitcoin turned up. I do like this one, Next Era Energy. This one just looks very interesting to me. It pays a dividend. Great. It's got earnings and some growth. What we're looking at are these two dots here. And I see two momentum dots. That's the scan. Breakout above the 50 on a utility stocks coming out of a squeeze with good relative strength in OBV. New skin, nah. Now here's a AI play, which I played back here, and then it collapsed. It went up because they said that NVIDIA made an investment, just like SoundHound, and then NVIDIA took their money out after they made some money. Not a reason to own something. Sunstone Homes. Here's another one that I like, and I have no idea what they do. Solventum Health. Pretty steady on the earnings here and on the revenue. I wonder if it's a REIT. Don't know what it is. Does not pay a dividend. Probably not a healthcare REIT. Must be maybe a med tech or supply stock. And you can see, took out the 200. You had a CPR. You had volume, breakout momentum out of a squeeze with good relative strength in OBV. That SPT, Sprout Social, is kind of down in its pattern. STVN, and then Toast is another one. And people who follow me know that I bought 3 stocks on the bottom. One I bought was Toast, and it wasn't doing a whole lot for me. It was up from 35. And then, boom, earnings came out, had a great earnings growth and surprise. And, I love it. I had bagels this morning, and they had Toast as a credit card processing. Ocean Prime down here in Lauderdale's next to where my boat is had that. They had a Toast machine. I like Toast. Other one I took, which hasn't done much, is PAGS. If it doesn't do well, I have to blame David Gallardi. He's always like this, although he hasn't talked about it in a long time ago. But this thing's had a nice run off the bottom, and it's moved up since I bought it, but it hasn't done much. And then third one I bought, and have to go back and find the day I bought them, but I talked about them both, was Palantir. And this one, despite the fact it wasn't a loved earnings report, probably because of its growth rate, it's had a nice run off the bottom. It's probably one of the leading stocks right now. All these showed up in my scans. And then lastly, what I like to do, just to show you that one real quick, is I like to go the impulse. I like to then drop down and let's go pull back an uptrend. So find things that are actually heading up. Let's put the $5 and 500,000 shares and let's rank them here by number of dots. And let's just look at like the top 10. TU, TELUS Corporation, pays a dividend. Nice breakout from the 200. Don't know anything about it, but I like the breakout. I like the CPR, gap, volume, breakout momentum with good relative strength in OBV. Insulet must have been an earnings move on the 8th. Big gap up. Done that before on earnings. Let's see, November 7th. So this was a gap up on earnings and it went sideways. So I think I'd let it consolidate after that big of a move. NGVC, Natural Grocery, Vitamin Cottage, earnings on the 8th. Big change with a surprise. You saw a big move up. It's getting extended, but look at all those blue dots. Love it, love it, love it. Just don't know if I want to chase it. West Rock Coffee, TTEC. Earnings out on the 8th with a significant surprise on earnings and revenue. Oh, this is a nice one. This is a silver miner. Nice move up, consolidation, and a breakout. It's a low cost. Look at the change and surprise on EPS and revenue. Earnings came out on the 6th. Here's that Solventum again. New Skin. Kingstone Companies. Don't know what they're doing, but up, sideways, breakout. Earnings were on. Oh, they're coming up, so we'll skip that one. We don't want to take a position going into earnings. Ashanti Gold, really like that one. ABTS, don't know anything about it. It's an IPO. STVN showed up a few times, kind of a choppy, not a very tight looking pattern. SA, Seabridge Gold, better ones. Whew. Algonquin Power and Utility Corporation. It's a utility. It can't be that exciting. Pays a 30 cents, which looks closer to 6%. Uptrend and a big breakout on earnings. It's a utility. Penumbra is another one that I like. That's on my short list. I think what I'd like to see is about this line here. I'd like to see it get above that line. Earnings came out back in April. So we've looked at, here's another energy stock that I liked. Not this one, NEE. We already looked at Nextera, but GEL. Big uptrend, pullback, and a breakout here. Breakout momentum from a squeeze. Relative strength in OBV setting up, not extended. GEL looks good, and it pays a 13% dividend. Nothing wrong with that. All right, guys. I hope you saw the power of this tool. Just in summary, we like to see what the market does. I need a breakout. I can buy here. I'd be afraid to short because I think after this uptrend consolidation probably goes higher. I'd be careful buying too much because we're still just retracement in a downtrend. Therefore, I'm leaning long, but I'm careful. Energy, a lot of energy stocks are showing up on my list, even though they've been beaten up. This is one that looks interesting. So have a great week. Let's see if that consolidation ends at a new highs or a retest of the lows. Again, join my top-down group and a top-down trader, and hope come see us in Orange County. You won't be disappointed, except you'll be back every year like everybody else is. And we'll see you on Monday night. Thanks, everybody.